Imagine waking up 3 months from now, looking in the mirror and barely recognizing the person staring back at you. Not because of a physical change, but because your mind, your discipline, and your entire way of being have transformed. Now imagine the opposite. 3 months pass and nothing changes. You're still stuck in the same habits, the same emotions, the same endless cycle of overthinking, procrastination, and self-doubt. Why do most people never break free? Because they wait. They wait for motivation. They wait for the right moment. They wait for life to change on its own. But change doesn't happen to you. It happens because of you. The greatest minds in history, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, understood a truth that most will never grasp. If you master your mind, you master your life. The next 3 months are either going to be just another chapter in your old story or the beginning of a transformation so powerful that your old self won't even recognize you. What if nothing, not fear, not laziness, not doubt, could stop you from becoming the strongest, most disciplined version of yourself? What if you stopped reacting to life and started controlling it? This is not self-help. This is a Stoic transformation, the same mindset that built warriors, leaders, and legends. And in the next 6 chapters, you will learn exactly how to destroy your old self and rebuild an unstoppable version of you. But before we begin, ask yourself one question. Who do you want to be 3 months from now? Are you ready to find out? 1. Destroy your old self. The Stoic reset. Alex wakes up to the blaring alarm in pre-dawn darkness. His hand slams the snooze button again. As he drags himself out of bed, he catches his reflection in the mirror. The eyes staring back at him look tired and uncertain. How did it come to this? Every day feels the same. At his unfulfilling job, he stays quiet, plagued by a voice of self-doubt. You're not good enough. He has ideas but never speaks up, afraid of being shot down. Each hour crawls by, the weight of stagnation growing heavier. After work, he numbs himself on the couch with mindless scrolling and TV. Another evening wasted. He once had ambitions, side projects, passions, but now they feel distant, buried under routine and fear. One midnight, Alex is wide awake, frustrated. He digs out that old notebook of abandoned goals. Where did that hopeful person go? He hardly recognizes the version of himself he has become. Cautious, deflated, stuck. In that moment, a realization hits him. If he keeps living like this, nothing will ever change. His story might feel uncomfortably familiar. Be honest. Do you see a bit of yourself in him? Perhaps you've felt that frustrating lack of progress, the fear of speaking up, the quiet desperation of knowing you're capable of more. If so, you need to face a brutal truth right now. Picture this. 5 years pass and nothing has changed. You keep hitting snooze on your goals. The dreams you shelved remain covered in dust. The habits holding you back dig in deeper. Life doesn't pause, it marches on. One day you wake up and a decade has flown by. What will you have to show for it? Imagine yourself 10 or 20 years from now, looking in the mirror at a version of you weighed down by regret. All the things you wanted to do but never did, gone. That pain would far outweigh any discomfort you feel by changing today. Can you live with that outcome? Can you bear the thought of wasting your potential and watching opportunity slip away? If your heart just sank, that's good. It means you're awake to the stakes. The cost of inaction is the life you could have lived. This is your wake-up call. No more excuses, no more waiting. It's time to face this reality head-on. Thankfully, you're not the first to face this crossroads. Almost 2,000 years ago, Stoic philosophers Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca dealt with the same challenge, breaking free from stagnation and living a meaningful life. Their circumstances were different, but their insights are timeless and practical for us today. Epictetus, a former slave-turned-teacher, taught that while you can't control everything that happens, you can control how you respond. Your old self feels stuck because it fixates on things outside your power, things like others' opinions or past failures. Epictetus would tell you to let go of that noise and focus on what is in your control, your actions, your habits, your mindset right now. Freedom starts within. The moment you take full responsibility for your life, you begin destroying the old self. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who struggled daily to live up to his principles, wrote in Meditations, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Stop overthinking and start doing. If you want to be courageous, do something courageous today. If you want to be productive, get to work now." The old self's endless deliberation is a trap. Real change comes from action. Seneca, a renowned statesman, saw how easily time slips away. While we waste time hesitating and postponing, life is slipping away, Seneca warned. Every day you delay, you lose precious time. He urged us to confront our fears and start living fully now rather than someday. He'd tell you to do the hard things today that your future self will thank you for. The Stoics weren't just thinkers, they were doers. Now it's your turn to practice. Epictetus gave a simple blueprint. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Decide who you want to become, and then act accordingly. The first step in this transformation is identifying what is holding you back. Your old self is made up of patterns, habits, and fears that have become your comfort zone. But comfort is the enemy of growth. If you truly want to become unrecognizable in 3 months, you must cut away what weakens you. Pick up a notebook and write down 5 habits that are keeping you trapped in mediocrity. Maybe it's procrastination, negative self-talk, or mindless consumption of social media. These habits have shaped your current reality. If you want a different life, you need to dismantle them one by one. Once you've identified what holds you back, commit to a no more excuses pact. Stop relying on motivation. It's fleeting. Instead, create systems that keep you disciplined even when you don't feel like it. A Stoic doesn't wait for inspiration. He acts because discipline is non-negotiable. Design daily rituals that reinforce your new identity. Begin each morning by taking control of your first thought. Don't check your phone. Instead, ask yourself, what is within my control today? Train yourself to embrace discomfort. The Stoics believed that voluntary hardship built resilience. Seneca practiced living with less, sleeping on the floor to prepare for life's uncertainties. Epictetus warned his students, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Growth isn't glamorous, it's uncomfortable. Embrace that discomfort. Let it forge you into someone stronger. Your transformation is already happening, but it won't be easy. Expect resistance. The old you will try to pull you back toward comfort and fear. You might stumble, that's okay. Marcus Aurelius advised focusing not on the fall, but on rising again and moving forward. Every struggle is a chance to strengthen your new habits and mindset. Transformation is won inch by inch, day by day. If you're still reading, you clearly hunger for change. Feed that hunger by taking action. Don't let this be just inspiration on a page. Make it the start of a new reality. Take a small step today and feel the momentum. Even a tiny action in the right direction can break inertia. This is your turning point. You have the wisdom and a plan, but only you can make the leap. No one else can do it for you. Your life can pivot right now. The only thing between who you are and who you want to be is the courage to act. You've come this far, so don't stop now. The old self is dying, but a new self is being built. The question is, will you let it happen? Now, as you stand at the edge of change, ask yourself, with your old self on its way out, are you ready to start building the new you in Chapter 2? Most people will read this and move on. They will feel inspired for a few minutes, maybe even a few hours, but then nothing. They will return to their old habits, their old mindset, their old excuses. They will tell themselves they will start tomorrow, next week, or when they feel ready. But the truth is, waiting for the right time is just another excuse. Change does not happen when you are ready. It happens when you decide to act. And you are here because you want real transformation. You are not here to just read about change. You are here to experience it. So before you commit to the full 90-day journey, I challenge you to prove to yourself that you can take action right now. This is why you are about to take on the Stoic Reboot, 7 days to reset your mind. This is not just another self-improvement challenge. This is a mental reset, a test of willpower, and the first step toward becoming unrecognizable in 90 days. For the next 7 days, you will engage in small but powerful actions that will rewire your thinking, build discipline, and help you detach from negativity. Day 1. Eliminate one toxic habit. Look at your life and identify one habit that weakens you. Maybe it's wasting hours on social media, eating unhealthy food, procrastinating, or indulging in negative self-talk. For the next 7 days, eliminate it completely. Every time you feel the urge to return to it, remind yourself, I control my actions. I do not need this habit to survive. Day 2. No complaining, no excuses. For 24 hours, do not complain about anything. No whining about the weather, no frustration over slow traffic, no blaming circumstances. Every time you catch yourself about to complain, pause and redirect your energy towards solutions or acceptance. Either fix the problem or let it go. Nothing else is allowed. Day 3. Practice negative visualization. Take 5 minutes to imagine losing something important, your job, your health, your freedom. Not to create fear, but to strengthen your gratitude and mental resilience. The Stoics practiced this daily to prepare their minds for anything. If you truly appreciate what you have, you will never take it for granted again. Day 4. No social media in the morning. Your mind is most powerful in the morning. Do not waste it scrolling through distractions. For the first hour of your day, stay away from social media, news, and emails. Instead, use that time to read, reflect, or write. Start your day on your terms, not on the terms of others. Day 5. Face a small fear. Courage is built in small moments. Today you will face something uncomfortable. It could be speaking up in a meeting, reaching out to someone new, or taking a cold shower. The goal is simple. Train yourself to stop avoiding discomfort. The more you embrace small challenges, the stronger you become. Day 6. The Stoic Journal. Reflection is power. Tonight, take 5 minutes to write about your day. Ask yourself, what did I do well? Where did I allow my emotions to control me? What could I improve tomorrow? By consistently analyzing your actions, you develop deep self-awareness, the key to lifelong growth. Day 7. Choose one core value to live by. Look back at your week and ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to become? Choose one Stoic principle: discipline, patience, resilience, courage, wisdom, and commit to living by it for the next 90 days. Let this value guide your actions, your decisions, and your mindset. This is your first test. Will you actually take action, or will you remain the same? If you are serious about transformation, drop a comment below saying, "I'm in." Share your progress, your struggles, your breakthroughs. Let's see how many of you are ready to reset your mind and rebuild your life. Your transformation has already begun, and once you complete these 7 days, you will be ready for the next phase of your journey, mastering your mind like a true Stoic warrior. 2. Mental toughness. Master your mind like a Stoic warrior. Alex had started his transformation. He had confronted the truth that his old self was the very thing holding him back. He had taken the first step, tearing down the weak habits and limiting beliefs that had kept him stagnant for years. But destruction is only half of the process. Now comes the harder part: rebuilding. This is where most people fail. They are willing to abandon their old selves, but hesitate to step fully into the new. The reason: their mind is still weak, their emotions still dictate their actions, their inner world is still ruled by impulse rather than discipline. Mental toughness is the foundation of true transformation. It is not just about enduring hardship. It is about thriving in discomfort, about mastering yourself so completely that no external event can shake you. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius faced war, betrayal, and the weight of ruling an empire, yet his mind remained unshaken. Epictetus, born into slavery, rose to become one of the greatest philosophers in history, not by changing his circumstances, but by mastering his mind. Seneca endured exile, political upheaval, and near constant threats to his life. Yet he remained calm, composed, and unbreakable. If they could do it, so can you. But mental toughness is not something you are born with. It is something you train. Imagine stepping onto a battlefield. The enemy is not another person. The enemy is your own mind, the voice that whispers, "I'm too tired. It's too hard. I'll do it tomorrow." Every time you give in, you lose. Every time you push through, you strengthen your resolve. Most people live their entire lives as slaves to their thoughts and emotions, reacting impulsively, letting frustration and fear dictate their choices. But a Stoic warrior does not react. He responds. He sees obstacles, but he does not flinch. He feels emotions, but he does not let them rule him. He faces setbacks, but he does not waver. If you want to become unrecognizable in 3 months, you must train yourself to think and act like a Stoic warrior, to master your mind before the world tries to master you. Mental toughness begins with one simple rule: control what you can, let go of what you cannot. Most suffering comes from fighting battles that were never ours to fight. People spend years obsessing over things beyond their power: the past, the opinions of others, the unpredictable nature of life. The Stoic warrior does not waste energy on what is outside his control. He directs every ounce of his strength toward what he can change: his mindset, his actions, his discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The question is, do you have the courage to apply this in your own life? Training your mind begins the moment you wake up. Your first battle of the day is against your own resistance. The temptation to hit snooze, to seek comfort, to avoid discomfort, it is all a test. Most people lose this battle before the day has even begun. The Stoics believed in starting the day with a clear purpose, setting the tone before external forces could interfere. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself each morning that the day ahead would be filled with challenges, rude people, setbacks, unexpected events. By preparing his mind in advance, he ensured that nothing could catch him off guard. How do you start your day? Do you drift into it mindlessly, or do you prepare for battle? One of the most effective ways to train mental toughness is through voluntary hardship. The Stoics deliberately sought discomfort, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they understood that comfort is the enemy of growth. Seneca practiced sleeping on the floor and eating simple meals to remind himself that he could endure hardship if necessary. Epictetus warned that improvement comes only when we are willing to endure the discomfort of growth. If you want to build an unbreakable mind, start by seeking out controlled discomfort every day. Take cold showers. Push yourself beyond your perceived limits in workouts. Fast for a day to test your self-control. Put yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable. Speak up in meetings. Approach new challenges. Train yourself to face fear head-on. Every time you voluntarily embrace discomfort, you strengthen your ability to handle real adversity. Mastering your emotions is another crucial step in mental toughness. Most people are ruled by emotions, allowing anger, frustration, and fear to dictate their actions. But the Stoic warrior does not let emotions control him. He controls them. This does not mean suppressing emotions, but rather training yourself to observe them without letting them dictate your response. Imagine receiving bad news. The weak mind reacts instantly: panic, frustration, blame. The Stoic mind pauses, breathes, assesses the situation logically, and acts with clarity. This is power. This is freedom. Epictetus taught that it is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things. You do not suffer because of events, you suffer because of how you interpret them. The next time you face a difficult situation, stop. Before reacting, ask yourself, is this in my control? What is the best response? The more you practice this, the more automatic it becomes. Over time, you will find that fewer and fewer things have the power to disturb you. Resilience is the final pillar of mental toughness. No matter how strong you become, life will test you. You will face failure. You will experience setbacks. You will be tempted to give up. But a Stoic warrior understands that adversity is part of the process. Marcus Aurelius believed that obstacles were not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every setback is fuel for growth. Every failure is a lesson. Every hardship is training. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "How can this make me stronger?" This shift in perspective changes everything. The person who complains about challenges remains weak. The person who embraces challenges becomes unstoppable. This is your moment. You have already begun the process of destroying your old self, but the work is far from over. Your mind will resist. It will whisper excuses, tempt you back into comfort, test your commitment. Do not give in. Train daily. Strengthen your resolve. Face discomfort head-on. Choose your response rather than reacting emotionally. Accept setbacks as part of the journey. You are no longer just an observer of your life. You are the warrior standing in the arena, ready to take control. If you have read this far, you are already different from most people. Most will never challenge themselves this way. Most will remain slaves to their impulses, their emotions, their fears. But you are here because you refuse to be like most people. The next step is yours to take. Will you choose mental toughness, discipline, and mastery over your own mind? Or will you fall back into comfort, letting circumstances dictate your future? The choice is in your hands. As you move forward, remember this: the mind is like a sword. If you do not sharpen it, it will rust. If you do not train it, it will weaken. If you do not master it, it will master you. What will you choose? The next chapter awaits. 3. The power of self-discipline. Build ironclad routines. Alex had begun to rewire his mind. He had destroyed the old self, stripped away the habits that had kept him weak, and built the mental resilience of a Stoic warrior. But knowing how to think is not enough. The battlefield of transformation is not fought in your mind alone. It is won in your daily actions. The real test comes when discipline meets reality. How do you ensure that your progress isn't fleeting? How do you keep growing long after the initial motivation fades? The answer is routines. Most people believe discipline is about willpower, about forcing yourself to do hard things every day. They are wrong. Willpower is limited. It fades, it fluctuates, and it fails under pressure. That is why most people start strong but give up after a few weeks. The Stoics understood that true discipline comes from systems, not motivation. Marcus Aurelius did not wake up every day debating whether he should train his mind. He simply did it. Seneca did not wait for the right moment to practice self-restraint. He lived it daily. Discipline is not something you summon when you need it. It is something you become through relentless repetition. If you want to change your life in 3 months, you must stop relying on motivation and start designing ironclad routines, systems so effective that they remove the need for choice. You should not have to decide whether to work out, whether to read, whether to focus on your goals. These things should be as automatic as breathing. Decision-making is a weakness when it comes to discipline. The more you think about whether you should do something, the more room you leave for hesitation, excuses, and failure. The secret is to eliminate choice and make the right actions inevitable. Imagine 2 versions of yourself. One wakes up with no plan, checking their phone first thing in the morning, scrolling aimlessly, starting the day reactive rather than proactive. The other wakes up with a predefined routine, already knowing the first 3 things they will do before the world has a chance to interfere. Which version of you is more likely to succeed? The answer is obvious. The person who removes uncertainty is the person who wins. Building ironclad routines starts with one foundational habit, the cornerstone that sets the tone for everything else. For the Stoics, this was morning preparation. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I am rising to do the work of a human being.' If you win the first hour of your day, you set the trajectory for everything that follows." What is the first thing you do when you wake up? If the answer is checking notifications, you are surrendering control before the battle even begins. Instead, create a non-negotiable sequence. Wake up, drink water, move your body, reflect, set your focus. No distractions, no mindless scrolling. The first decision of the day should be one of power, not passivity. From here, discipline expands into every part of your life. One of the biggest reasons people fail to build discipline is because they tolerate exceptions. They tell themselves, just this once, and before they know it, they are back to their old ways. The Stoics had no room for such indulgences. Epictetus warned, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This means being so committed to your routines that others might think you are extreme. Good. Let them. The people who mock your discipline are the same ones who remain stagnant while you grow. If you are not willing to appear obsessive about your own transformation, you are not serious about it. Discipline is not about perfection, it is about consistency. A single missed day will not ruin you, but the habit of missing days will. This is where most people fall apart. They are either all in or all out, which is why they burn out so easily. A Stoic does not let one setback define their entire trajectory. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. If you miss one workout, you do not miss two. If you break one habit, you course correct immediately. The key is to never let failure become a pattern." Another critical component of self-discipline is energy management. Many people fail in their routines not because they lack willpower, but because they drain themselves with useless activities. They spend their energy on distractions, on mindless entertainment, on reacting to negativity. They arrive at the most important part of their day exhausted. A Stoic guards their energy fiercely. Seneca warned, "People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful." Your time and energy are your most valuable resources. Spend them only on what matters. If you find yourself constantly too tired to execute your routines, look at where your energy is going. Is it going to trivial conversations, to news cycles that drain you, to endless consumption rather than creation? Cut the waste. A powerful exercise to strengthen discipline is pre-commitment. The mind is weak when it is faced with temptation in the moment, but it is strong when it decides in advance. If you decide tonight that you will wake up at 5 a.m., you remove the choice tomorrow morning. If you set out your gym clothes before bed, you eliminate the resistance of deciding whether to work out. If you meal prep, you remove the temptation of bad choices. The greatest warriors do not rely on momentary willpower. They plan their battles ahead of time. If you leave your routines up to chance, you have already lost. The final pillar of self-discipline is accountability. Most people fail because they have no consequences for failure. They break their routines in silence, with no one to hold them accountable, so they fall back into comfort. A Stoic warrior does not allow themselves to slip unnoticed. They create systems of self-accountability, tracking their habits, writing reflections, reviewing their progress. They also build external accountability. This could mean telling someone your goals, joining a group that pushes you, or even putting money on the line if you fail. The key is to raise the stakes so high that failure is no longer an option. Alex was no longer just thinking about change, he was living it. He had built a fortress of discipline around his new identity. He did not wait to feel like it. He simply acted. His mornings were no longer spent scrolling, they were spent moving, reflecting, executing. His workouts were not negotiable, they were who he was now. His habits were not left to chance, they were designed for inevitability. He had become the kind of person who does what he says he will do, every single time. If you are still reading, you are ready to take this step. This is not about hoping you will be disciplined tomorrow. This is about deciding that you already are. Right now, ask yourself, what is one habit that must become non-negotiable in your life? Identify it. Set a time for it. Remove choice. Eliminate hesitation. And then, execute. The next chapter will test your ability to persist through discomfort, because now we will dive into embracing struggle, not avoiding it, but using it as fuel for an unstoppable mindset. Are you ready? 4. Master your emotions, become unfazed by anything. Alex had already begun forging his transformation. He had shattered his old identity, built the mental resilience of a Stoic warrior, and established an unshakable foundation of discipline through ironclad routines. But there was still one enemy left, one force capable of undoing all his progress, derailing his efforts, and pulling him back into the chaos of his former self. That enemy was his own emotions. For most people, emotions are like a storm, unpredictable, overpowering, and often destructive. A single moment of anger can ruin relationships. A single wave of doubt can paralyze action. A single burst of fear can make a person abandon their dreams. Emotions, when left unchecked, control actions, decisions, and ultimately lives. But here is the harsh truth. Your emotions are not reality. They are only your reaction to reality. The Stoics understood this centuries ago, and their ability to master their emotions made them virtually unshakable in the face of adversity. Imagine walking into a meeting where your boss suddenly criticizes you in front of everyone. Your heart pounds, your face gets hot, your mind floods with justifications, counter-arguments, and anger. The weak mind reacts immediately, raising its voice, getting defensive, allowing emotions to dictate the moment. But the Stoic mind pauses. It observes, it breathes, it asks, "Is this in my control?" Instead of reacting emotionally, it chooses its response. That is what separates those who lose themselves to their emotions from those who command respect and control their destiny. Most people believe that emotions are something they have to feel. If they get angry, they lash out. If they feel hurt, they retreat. If they feel afraid, they hesitate. They assume emotions dictate reality. But a Stoic understands a simple yet life-changing truth. You do not have to act on every emotion you feel. Just because something angers you does not mean you must become angry. Just because something scares you does not mean you must give in to fear. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire in chaos, surrounded by war, betrayal, and constant uncertainty. If he had let emotions dictate his rule, he would have been consumed by rage, paranoia, and despair. But he didn't. Instead, he wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." True power is not in controlling the outside world. True power is in controlling your reaction to it. So how do you build this power? How do you develop the kind of emotional mastery that allows you to remain calm in the face of criticism, unshaken by failure, and unfazed by uncertainty? It begins with training yourself to pause before reacting. When an emotion arises, whether it is anger, fear, or frustration, do not act on it immediately. Instead, observe it like an outsider watching someone else. This practice, known as cognitive distancing, allows you to detach from the emotion and analyze it rationally. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at turbulent waves crashing against jagged rocks below. Your emotions are those waves, relentless, wild, and chaotic. Most people jump into the storm without thinking, getting tossed around by the chaos of their feelings. But the Stoic stands at the edge, watching the waves, but not stepping into them. The waves exist, but they have no power over him. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, warned against being a slave to emotion. He wrote, "A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not." This is the mindset that allows a person to remain calm under pressure. Instead of resisting emotions, you must acknowledge them without becoming them. This is not about becoming cold or indifferent. It is about developing control. Anger is one of the most destructive emotions, and it is also one of the most common. It hijacks rational thought, fuels impulsive decisions, and often leads to regret. Epictetus offered a powerful solution. Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself, what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? This practice forces you to reflect before reacting. The next time you feel anger rising, stop. Ask yourself, what is causing this emotion? Is this truly important? Will this matter in a week? More often than not, the answer is no. Fear is another emotion that paralyzes people. It keeps them from taking risks, pursuing their goals, and stepping outside their comfort zone. Fear is not reality. It is anticipation of a worst-case scenario that has not even happened. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have endured many hardships, and yet you live. You have faced difficulties before, and yet you stand." The way to conquer fear is to expose yourself to it. Do the things that scare you. Speak when you feel like staying silent. Act when you feel like hesitating. Train yourself to be comfortable with discomfort, and soon, fear will lose its grip on you. Sadness, disappointment, and frustration are also unavoidable emotions. But the key to mastering them is acceptance. The Stoics understood that much of life is beyond our control. People will disappoint us, plans will fail, and hardships will come. But dwelling on what we wish was different only creates suffering. The antidote is to accept what is and move forward. The next time something does not go your way, instead of resisting it, ask yourself, how can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? When you accept life as it is, rather than how you want it to be, suffering disappears. Alex had begun mastering his emotions. The first time he felt anger surge at a co-worker's comment, he caught himself. He paused, breathed, and let the feeling pass without acting on it. When fear tried to stop him from taking a new opportunity, he recognized it for what it was, a mental illusion, and pushed forward anyway. When disappointment struck, instead of dwelling on it, he asked himself what lesson it held. This was his transformation into an unshakable version of himself. If you want to become emotionally unshakable, train yourself daily. Each time you choose not to react emotionally, you strengthen your power. Each time you step outside your comfort zone despite fear, you become mentally stronger. Each time you accept what is instead of wishing it were different, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. Right now, ask yourself, which emotion controls me the most? Is it anger, fear, doubt? How would my life change if I could master it? The answer to that question determines your next step. Start practicing emotional detachment today. The moment an emotion arises, observe it without reacting. Over time, you will realize that nothing has the power to shake you unless you allow it to. The next chapter will take this mastery even further, teaching you how to transform adversity into fuel for unstoppable growth. Are you ready? 5. Embrace discomfort. Destroy limiting beliefs. Alex had spent years avoiding discomfort, retreating to safety, and justifying his hesitation with excuses that felt reasonable at the time. He believed that if something was hard, it was not meant for him. If something made him anxious, he should wait until he felt ready. But after weeks of dismantling his old identity, building mental resilience, mastering self-discipline, and taking control of his emotions, he now saw the harsh truth. Growth and comfort can never coexist. Everything he wanted, confidence, strength, success, resilience, existed on the other side of discomfort. The people he admired had all walked through fire. They had faced rejection, failure, and uncertainty, yet they moved forward anyway. They did not wait for fear to disappear. They acted despite it. They did not wait for conditions to be perfect. They adapted. They did not seek comfort. They sought challenge. This is the fundamental difference between those who transform their lives and those who stay trapped in mediocrity. The greatest enemy to your success is not failure. It is your addiction to comfort. Every time you avoid an uncomfortable situation, you reinforce the belief that you cannot handle it. Every time you hesitate instead of acting, you strengthen the habit of inaction. Every time you choose the easy path, you rob yourself of the growth that comes from struggle. The Stoics knew this well. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. If you want to become unrecognizable in 3 months, you must seek out discomfort daily." Most people live inside an invisible prison of their own limiting beliefs. They tell themselves they are not smart enough, not disciplined enough, not talented enough. They believe they are trapped by their circumstances, but in reality, they are only trapped by their perception of difficulty. The truth is, you are capable of far more than you realize, but you will never know your true potential until you push beyond your perceived limits. The first step in embracing discomfort is recognizing that your mind will always choose the path of least resistance, unless you train it otherwise. When you feel resistance toward an action, that is not a signal to stop. It is a signal to push forward. The hesitation before making a tough decision, the fear before taking action, the discomfort before stepping outside your routine. These are not warnings. They are invitations. Every great transformation begins at the edge of discomfort. Alex put this idea to the test. He had always been afraid of public speaking, avoiding every opportunity that required him to speak in front of an audience. But he realized that his fear was not proof that he should avoid it. It was proof that he needed to face it. So instead of running, he signed up for a public speaking class. His hands shook, his voice wavered, his heart pounded, but he did it anyway. And with each attempt, the fear lost its grip. He was no longer controlled by his hesitation. He had proven to himself that he could step into discomfort and survive. The secret to destroying limiting beliefs is not to wait until you feel confident. It is to act before you feel ready. The mind is a liar. It tells you that you must be prepared before you take the leap, but preparation is often just another form of procrastination. The Stoics believed in exposure therapy for the soul. They deliberately put themselves in difficult situations so that no challenge could shake them. Seneca practiced voluntary hardship, sleeping on the floor and eating simple meals to train his resilience. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that discomfort was part of the human experience. Epictetus, born a slave, embraced his suffering as a path to wisdom. They did not just accept discomfort, they invited it. If you want to rewire your mind for resilience, you must create daily discomfort challenges, small but deliberate actions that push you beyond your comfort zone. These do not have to be extreme. They can be as simple as taking a cold shower, waking up an hour earlier, having a difficult conversation, forcing yourself to write when you don't feel like it, or choosing the harder option when given a choice. The goal is to train your nervous system to stop fearing discomfort. Over time, what once seemed unbearable becomes normal, and what once seemed impossible becomes effortless. Fear thrives in avoidance. The longer you delay facing a fear, the stronger it becomes. The moment you confront it, it begins to shrink. This is why the 5-second rule is so powerful. When faced with an uncomfortable action, Count down from 5 and move before your mind has time to argue. Do not think. Do not negotiate. Just act. Action kills fear. Failure is another fear that keeps people stuck. They believe that failing means they are not good enough, that mistakes define them. But the Stoics saw failure differently. To them, failure was feedback, a necessary step toward mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Every setback is fuel. Every obstacle is an opportunity. Every mistake is a lesson. The only real failure is refusing to try. Alex tested this philosophy when he launched his business. He was terrified of failing, of wasting time, of looking foolish. But he reminded himself that action is always better than inaction. He started small, knowing that perfection was a trap. His first attempt was messy. His second was slightly better. By his 10th, he was unrecognizable from the person who once hesitated. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck is not talent, luck, or intelligence. It is the ability to take imperfect action consistently. Imagine yourself 3 months from now. What kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be the same person who hesitates, overthinks, and avoids discomfort? Or do you want to be someone who embraces challenges, who does not let fear dictate their actions, who becomes unstoppable in the face of uncertainty? The choice is simple, but not easy. If you want to transform your life, you must lean into the things that scare you. You must take action before you feel ready. You must stop avoiding the hard things and start attacking them head-on. The version of you that exists on the other side of discomfort is stronger, wiser, and more capable than you can imagine, but you will never meet that version of yourself if you stay in the comfort zone. Right now, make a commitment. Identify one thing you have been avoiding because it makes you uncomfortable. It could be a conversation, a skill, a challenge, a fear. Whatever it is, do it today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, step into the discomfort, lean into the resistance, take the leap, and watch as your old limitations begin to crumble. In the next chapter, we will take this transformation even further, learning how to build a life of purpose, meaning, and unshakable confidence. Are you ready to step into the strongest version of yourself? Let's go. 6. The Stoic Reflection. Mastering Self-Awareness. 3 months had passed since Alex took his first step toward transformation. The man who once hesitated, doubted himself, and let emotions dictate his actions was now unrecognizable. He had built discipline, embraced discomfort, controlled his emotions, and shattered his limiting beliefs. But despite his external transformation, there was still one thing left to master: the ability to look within, to see himself with absolute clarity, and to ensure that he never fell back into his old patterns. Self-awareness is the foundation of all lasting change. Without it, people drift. They repeat the same mistakes, fall into old habits, and wonder why their life never improves. But the Stoics knew a secret. The only way to stay in control of your life is to stay in control of your mind. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in Rome, wrote every day in his private journal, not for an audience, not for approval, but for himself. He reflected on his actions, his thoughts, his emotions, and his failures. He understood that the unexamined mind is dangerous, that without self-awareness, a man is a slave to his impulses. Most people never take the time to step back and observe themselves. They live their lives on autopilot, reacting instead of responding, repeating cycles of behavior that sabotage their success. They avoid looking inward because it is uncomfortable. But discomfort is the path to mastery. If you do not confront your own weaknesses, they will control you forever. Alex had learned discipline, but was he applying it every day? He had learned to control his emotions, but was he slipping back into old reactions? He had built confidence, but was he still allowing doubt to creep in? The only way to know was through reflection, a daily habit that would keep him sharp, aware, and constantly evolving. The Stoics had a simple yet powerful practice for self-awareness: the evening review. Every night before bed, they would ask themselves 3 critical questions. What did I do well today? What did I do poorly? How can I improve tomorrow? These questions seem simple, but their power is life-changing. When you force yourself to reflect daily, you eliminate blind spots. You catch yourself before bad habits return. You hold yourself accountable. And most importantly, you guarantee that every day you become better than the day before. Alex made this his nightly ritual. At first it was difficult. He had to confront truths he wanted to ignore, moments where he had been weak, times where he had let fear hold him back. Small failures that, left unchecked, could have grown into major setbacks. But over time, he realized that awareness was the key to lasting transformation. He noticed patterns. He saw where his discipline was slipping, where his emotions were taking control, where he was still making excuses. But instead of feeling discouraged, he felt empowered, because now he had the ability to correct course immediately. He no longer needed weeks or months to recognize mistakes. He caught them in real time. Self-awareness is not just about identifying weaknesses. It is also about reinforcing strengths. When Alex reviewed his day, he made sure to recognize the moments where he had shown resilience, where he had stepped outside his comfort zone, where he had proven to himself that he was no longer the same man he once was. This positive reinforcement cemented his new identity. There was one more practice that took his self-awareness to an even higher level: the Stoic morning journal. If the evening review was about analyzing the past, the morning journal was about preparing for the future. Every morning, before checking his phone, before letting the world dictate his mood, he would sit down and answer 3 more questions. What is my main focus today? What challenges might arise, and how will I handle them? What virtues will I embody, no matter what happens? This practice rewired his mind. He no longer reacted to the day. He designed it. He anticipated obstacles before they happened. He reminded himself of his principles before he needed them. He set his mindset before the world had a chance to shape it for him. The transformation was undeniable. He was no longer just acting stoic. He was thinking stoic. His mind had become a fortress, not easily shaken by outside events. When a challenge appeared, he did not panic. He had already prepared for it in the morning. When he made a mistake, he did not spiral into self-doubt. He had already analyzed it the night before. He was no longer a passive participant in his own life. He was in full control. Most people avoid self-reflection because they fear what they might find. They do not want to see their flaws, their weaknesses, their lack of progress. But this is exactly why they stay stuck. If you are not willing to see the truth about yourself, you will never be able to change it. Alex now understood that transformation is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong commitment. You do not just become disciplined once, you maintain it. You do not just conquer fear once, you face it every day. You do not just build confidence once, you reinforce it through action. The work never stops, but that is what makes it powerful. Right now, think about your own life. How often do you truly reflect? How often do you hold yourself accountable? How often do you analyze your actions with complete honesty, If the answer is not often, then that is where your growth begins. Tonight, take 5 minutes. Write down what you did well, what you did poorly, and what you will improve tomorrow. Do this every night. Then, tomorrow morning, set your intention. Write down your focus, your anticipated challenges, and the virtues you will embody. Do this for a week, and you will already be ahead of 99% of people. Do this for a month, and you will feel a level of control over your life that you have never experienced before. Do this for 3 months, and you will be unrecognizable. Alex had reached the final stage of his transformation. He had not just changed his habits, he had changed the way he saw himself. He no longer needed external validation. He no longer waited for motivation. He no longer let his mind wander aimlessly. He owned his mind, his actions, his results, and because of that, he owned his future. But this is not just about Alex. This is about you. You have come this far. You have learned the principles. You have been given the tools. Now, there is only one question left. Will you execute? The next chapter is not written yet. The final transformation is not complete, because it is not just a story, it is your reality. What happens next is up to you. Who will you become? The final Stoic challenge. 3 months from now, you will either look back and see a life transformed, or you will see another cycle of excuses, distractions, and wasted potential. The difference between those two outcomes, your decision right now. You have learned how to destroy your old self, train your mind to be unshakable, master self-discipline, and embrace discomfort. You have been given every tool necessary to forge a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and completely unrecognizable from who you are today. But knowledge means nothing without action. Most people will finish this journey and do nothing. They will fall back into their old patterns, waiting for the right time to begin. But you are not most people. So here's your final challenge. Live tomorrow as the person you want to become, not next week, not next year, tomorrow. Wake up and carry yourself as the version of you that no longer makes excuses, no longer hesitates, no longer waits for permission to claim the life they deserve. This is your moment. If you are ready to start this transformation today, comment "Ready" below. If this message has helped you, like, share, and subscribe so we can build a community of Stoic warriors who refuse to settle for anything less than greatness. And before you go, ask yourself this. What would happen if starting today you refused to be anything less than your strongest, most unstoppable self? Think about it, because your answer will define the rest of your life.